Welcome to the Modern Application Development 2 screencast. In this screencast, we'll add token-based authentication to our APIs. So it could be used in our Ajax applications or view-based applications. For this, we need a terminal, browser, editor, and Python installed. We'll start with the application that we had used before. I will do some changes to it, but that's where we'll start with. The same application, API application along with the security. There's one change. We used to use a framework called or a package called Flask security. Now the Flask security has an update that they're not maintaining it, and the same thing has been forked into Flask security 2. So we are going to use this just to be on the latest version and use the most updated version. So what I've done is in our requirements 2, I've removed the Flask security and I've added Flask security 2 here. The rest remains same. Virtually the APIs almost remain same. So you don't have to make any changes in the code. It's a fork and improved version. Unless you are using something that has breaking changes, you don't have to worry about it. You can continue to use it. Okay, so I have already did a local install. I've already did a pip install, Flask security 2 and removed the previous version as well before installing the new version. You can do that by pip uninstall, and give the package name here. Okay, I've already done that, so I'm just going to start local run. The database is the same database that we're going to use SQLite. I've added one table. I'll explain why I've added that table later, but you don't have to worry about it. Right, so let me start the application. So it's the same script that we used to use before. If you see, it's going to instance enable the virtual environment and then start running the main.py. The main.py, we are starting the server, local dev server 8080, and we've included the controllers in the main controllers and also some APIs. I have a one test API just for all our experimentation and testing. So if you go to API and see test API, it does nothing. There's a get and it just marshals a message hello world and just returns that. That's it. Right. So now we have started the server. Let's go to the browser and refresh this page. Okay. So this is there, and we used to use this, right, login page, and I could use okay, login. So and then you could see all of the things that you could do with login. We used to achieve this login enable or disable by adding this login required. Now we can go ahead and add the same thing to our Ajax APIs too. Like for example, you can add it here. Okay, and let me say whether it's restarted. Yes, restarted. Now let me log out first, right? And if I do /API/test, it will give me a login page, right? And come and enter the password. Okay, you can see that once I log in, I can make the calls to this path without any problem, right? Without any issues, because it uses the same cookie based authorization or authentication. Now you can also call a fetch request. You can make a fetch request, for example, using our fetch API. Just that you need to add the credential same origin. This will send the credentials to the same origin as in same domain. It won't say. If you're making a call to a different domain, it will not send any credential. But if you're making a call to the same domain from the same page and same domain, then it will send the credentials. We can see what does it mean exactly here. Here you can omit the credentials or never send or receive cookies when you're doing fetch. But if you do same origin, you will send cookies along with it, and then you can authorize or authenticate it, right? You can also do cross origin, but we don't have to do cross origin here because we are calling on the same domain name. Localhost 8080, here also it's local. So now if I run this, you can see that the call was made and the response was received. This is like a fetch call, right? Ajax call. So you could in all practical uses, you could use the same login for doing a good view application, making calls on fetch. In all practical purposes, you could use the same cookie based authentication to make fetch calls from your view application. You don't have to use anything new. But that said, it's kind of weird, right? Sometimes it goes to a login page and then it forwards it back, and then you make Ajax call. You have to make test calls to see whether you already have the cookie set. If not, you have to make a dummy call to make the cookie set, all of that. You can avoid doing that by using token based authentication, which means instead of cookies, we'll use tokens in the header. Now the same framework, Flask security, also supports token based authentication here. Token based authentication, right? So we'll use that instead of cookie based authentication. So what it will do is you'll log in using username and password, and the system gives you a token, and you use this token to actually communicate with the server for the next few calls. Now this has an advantage because it doesn't have to be you can set it in the header. You don't have to depend on that credential same origin kind of settings. Okay, let's do this. To do this, we'll have to do a couple of changes in our code. Let me start with reading what it means to have a token based authentication. Here is the notes about it. Basically, you can make an Ajax call to the same endpoint or JSON post to the same endpoint with the include auth token to get the token, and then you can use that token to send the authentication token in the header to actually authorize. Now this requires one change. To actually generate the token, the Flask security uses a column called FS identifier in the user table. This uses like a seed to generate the token. You can, so in a way that if you change this, your token also changes. So anytime you want to reset the token or get a new token, you can just reset this FS unifier, and then you can change the token. That's one of the advantage, right? Or you can call this set token unifier, and then it will change the token, right? So to do this, we'll do go back to our models and add a new column called FS unifier. I've already added it. It's called db.column. String of 255. It could be less or more, but I've just chosen pretty standard length string. If you want to use a longer unique code, and it has to be unique across all the users. So this, if you see our table, I've added some values, simple values here, but actually in real world, if I really want to set it up, I would use something like an random generator, like a good random generator to generate code, like let's say 50 characters one, or hex 50, and then this is what I would use, or maybe just smaller one, maybe around 12. Yeah, I'll use this rather than actually what I'm using here, which are very simple. But anyway, I'm using it here for testing, so it's fine. So once you do that, change this FS unifier, then you can go to your config and then just check security token authentication header. By default, it will be authentication token. If you want to change it to anything else, you can make, like for example, instead of authentication token, you want to use auth token or something else, then you can set that here. I've currently disabled the CSRF, but you can enable it too. Okay, once you do that, you can actually post to the same endpoint. Here you can see it's a base URL is localhost 8080 /login and $include auth token. That's what the documentation says. If you see here, it says perform an HTTP post with a query param of include auth token, and the authentication details as JSON data. Authentication details are email and password. My dummy password is also password, and then it has to be a JSON body. Then if you send it, it logs in and gives you a key. Right now you have a authentication token key. Now let's go back here where we were, and then let's delete the cookie here. If there are an application storage cookies, just going to delete it. Okay. Okay. Now if I go to console, clear this and run this, you can see that it's trying to forward it to the next page. We don't want this to happen, right? Now you want it to throw an error saying login not possible, or login error, or unauthorized. So that's where we have to change in the API. So instead of login required, we need to put auth token required, right? In this case, we want auth token specifically, and don't want to use login required, because login required also does forwarding to a login page if it not logged in already, right? Let's add that auth token required, or auth required type token, not session or cookie, right? I'm going to save this. See whether it's restarted. Yeah, because I want to set the header as JSON, the body as JSON. Like for example, if I do this here, it shows that I'm trying to get a JSON and shows you're not authenticated, please supply the correct credentials, right? And the header is content type JSON. So I just want to send the fetch header type here, right? Let say fetch set headers mdn. Okay, just want to set this, because that's when it our Flask security thinks it's in. We don't want this actually, but anyway, you can keep it, doesn't make any difference. Okay, now we can see here we got a response saying you're not authenticated, please supply correct credential, even though you put same origin. That's because there's no cookie. We deleted the cookie. If we had the cookie, I think we would have got it. Let's say once more, Let's try I at tejsgn.com. Okay, click login, right, and then delete this. And if I run, say you're not authenticated. Okay, now at this point it's expecting not a cookie but the token, right? If I had put login required, I'm sure it would have worked. Let's see. Okay, there you go, it worked, right? But we don't want login required. First thing, we want to use token, yeah. And now even though we are sending a cookie, it's not using it, but anyway, even if you don't send cookie, it will be the same because they are the same effect. Now we'll do one change. I'll delete the cookie just to be clear. Okay, I'll go back to console. I'll just clear this. It should throw an error now. Okay, it's throwing an error 401. Now I'll remove these credentials. Shouldn't matter. Let's see what it means. Basic auth, so it doesn't include headers, so headers will go anyway, so we don't need this. So we'll add another header thing, right? I'll just log out here also. It's just to make it clear for you. If right, so there's no way this is going to work now, right? Just to make sure that you understand. There's no cookie anyway. I've deleted the cookie, so it wouldn't have worked. So it's still throwing an error. Yeah. So now I'll add another header component. What is the header component? You said this, we're going to send the token as authentication token. Right? And what will be the value? The value will be this. What we sent to the login thing and what the key we got. Like if you log in, you already logged in. Okay, send logout here in this specific thing, but let me just do login again. You get a token here, authentication token. This is the token that we need to send, and you can save this token. If you're using browser, you can save it in local storage and then keep sending it every time. Right, now let's run this. There you go, you got, right? If you see the header request, header, you can see that we are sending the authentication token and no cookies or anything, right? So that way we are able to use authentication. Now what you could do in the same logic, we can send both login and then fetch the thing. Let's do that. So I'm just going to cut this here. Just going to create two JavaScript calls. One is this anyway. Another one is a login request, just for our understanding that it's working properly. Login and question mark. If we don't include this, it will try to set the HTTP cookie, right? That's why that's important. Then we won't send this. You have to send the content body. How do we send the content body in the view APIs? It will be a post method. Okay, and then body be JSON stringify data. I'll just do let data equal to user email i@tejistian.com, password, my dummy password. Okay, then I'm going to send the body JSON stringify. We don't need this because we are trying to log in. Okay, so we're going to run this first, get the response. Based on that, we're going to call that. Okay, so let's see. So let's refresh this page just to show that we are not already logged in. If we go to our application or storage, cookies, there's no cookies. So here, other call. Sorry, I think there is, while editing I missed something. Okay, you don't need this. Basically this is the login JavaScript and this is the testing one. We'll replace this with the actual thing that we get, right? We don't have this. So let's run this. Well, let's run this first, something with some value. Basically it throws an error 401, right? Now we'll not do that. Then we'll do this, where we are creating the data, username and password. Let's say you are in view component, we are taking username and password, then you are submitting to this URL endpoint with post, with body, comma here, JSON.stringify data, then send headers also. Okay. Okay, as formatting is little out of things, so let me just do formatting well. Okay, just making sure everything is closed. This to this, this to this, this to this. Okay. So now we are sending the headers, we're sending the method as post, body as body. Okay. Now if I run this, it ran, gave me a response. Now in the response, the login has happened and it is given me response subject to its CRF token, and within the user object there is a authentication token. You can see that. Then you can copy this authentication token and in your JavaScript you can store it in the local storage. You can go to storage, you can store in the local storage, and then you can pull it from the local storage and use it. For example, you can do it here, give some maybe like key as auth token and store it like that, as long as you want. And then when you don't want, you can just remove that and use it to read it from this key value from the local storage to make the calls. Now I'm not going to do that, but yeah, I'm just giving you an example. Now once you get this, you can copy this. I'm just going to make another call just to show that it works, right? Okay, that would look like this, just the same auth token vw, and then we can run it again. So you can see here it ran and gave me an answer, right? So that's how we are going to use auth token. So we saw two methods here. One, using cookies. Use the standard way, you don't have to do play around. As long as you use the same domain and you have a way to show the login page and login, and then the rest of your calls will go through easily because it uses cookie authentication. Now you wanted it to be much more clearer. You don't want to show login page, but you want to make your own login page in some Ajax way using view component or something. Then you could use this way to log in, post the log email and password, get the authentication token, store this authentication token, and then make all your calls from then on using authentication token. This should be possible for all of them that we have tagged in our API as auth required, right? And we can mark like another article likes API. I wanted to show articles likes API, for example. If you want to do, then you can have an API URL that looks like this, article likes, and then a user can like an article by sending the article ID, right? And along with the authentication token. That once I enable the authentication token, I should be able to like the article. If I don't send it, then it gives you 401 error. Then you will force the user to log in. That's it actually. So I hope this will be useful when you are developing your Vue applications. You can use any of the ways. I think the second way of using token is much more useful. Now, if you want to go like beyond and do some more experiments at your own time or learn more, you can try JWT, also called JSON Web Tokens. There is a package called Python JWT, and the one for Flask security also. You can use that to use JWT. But I think in our case, in the specific case that we have, it's a same system that generates the token and the same system that validates the token. So I think a regular token should be more than enough. I think JSON Web Tokens or JWT will become very useful if you have distributed systems. For example, a system is generating tokens for you, and a very different on another system wants to use that token to authenticate you. That's when JWTs are very useful. In our case, I think we're going to have a single system that will generate the token for you, which means that will give you auth endpoint to generate the token for you, and will also consume the same token. So we're going to use simple tokens. That's it. I hope you will find this useful. Go ahead and explore by yourself what else you can do and implement them. Some of the interesting stuff are like two-factor authentication. It's still an experimental thing, but it's an interesting thing where you, after the user logs in, you ask for one more level of authentication, like either TOTP, time-based authentication, or SMS-based second factor authentication, things like that, to add more security. I think you should learn about it, but it's not must at this point. But I think if you spend some time and learn about it, you can always implement it. It will be a very useful security feature. Thank you so much. Have a good day.